So hey guys, the reason why I brought my copy of KickAss for this review was because today I'm going to review KickAss 2 for you today. KickAss 2, you guys, is directed by Jeff Wadlow. For those who don't know who he is, he's, believe it or not, the nephew of Katie Couric, the news reporter. Um, he replaced Matthew Vaughn for this KickAss sequel, KickAss 2. It was originally entitled KickAss 2 Balls to the Wall, but I think Matthew Vaughn, back when Matthew Vaughn was attached, I think that's what it was going to be called. But this is just called KickAss 2. I apologize that there is going to be some profanity in this review because of some of the characters have profanity in their names. So just a heads up. So it's not really a G-rated review, I can say. But for Kick-Ass 2, you guys, it follows immediately after the first film, where Kick-Ass and Hit Girl, they're trying to get out of the superhero scene. They really don't want to be a part of it anymore. Kick-Ass has just kind of wound down from it. Um, his life is just getting kind of boring now that he doesn't have to worry about the superhero stuff. And with Hit Girl, she wants to be a superhero. She wants to help, society with crime and everything. Problem is, her new guardian Marcus, who kind of promised her um, deceased father, who was Big Daddy in the first film, for those who remember, played by Nicolas Cage, that basically Marcus is trying to do. He was the cop that stayed in while Nicolas Cage was the ex-cop. That he wants to kind of rebuild her childhood, kind of allow this part of her life that Nicolas Cage kind of took away from her in the first movie. He wants her to. He wants her to be a part of like the high school cheerleading squad. To actually have friends, to go out to parties, to be academic, to find out what her academic skills are in the real world. So Marcus really wants her to put the whole superhero thing to the side so she can focus on that. Hit Girl even tells Kick-Ass that she doesn't want to be a superhero anymore because of all this, and so Marcus doesn't get mad at her. So Kick-Ass is kind of, he wants to come back, but he wants to come back with support. So what he does is he comes back with a league of superheroes who have kind of took his spot when he kind of took a time off from being a superhero. He meets a man named Dr. Gravity, a guy played by Jim Carrey called Colonel Stars and Stripes. There's a girl named Night Bitch. There's so there's a bunch of other heroes, including actually a friend of his from the first film. He had the glasses and the longer brown hair. His name is Battle Guy. He's also a part of this league of superheroes that Kick-Ass joins. So he becomes a part of that. They're kind of a community service thing in a way. They give money to the poor. They take care of the criminals that are causing a lot of trouble in the city. And then they're led by Colonel Stars and Stripes. He's kind of the head of the whole thing. Kind of why I bet Jim Carrey probably took the role, because it's kind of one of the bigger characters in that group of the movie. Um, but things really get out of control when Red Mist returns. He wants revenge on Kick-Ass from the events of the first film with Kick-Ass killing his dad. Um, and he comes up with a new name that I don't want to share just because it is so dirty. But he has a new name. It's a more villainous name, and he basically recruits all these villains that are basically gonna kill Kick-Ass and Hit Girl, so he can have this his vengeance can have what it wants as far as getting rid of Kick-Ass and Hit Girl goes. So he gets the worst, most strongest criminals he can find to be a part of his league to take those two people out, including the whole League of Heroes that Kick-Ass and Hit Girl are a part of. So that's basically the premise of Kick-Ass 2. For the positives and negatives, you guys, I like that Kick-Ass and Hit Girl help each other out with their personal problems. Hit Girl, basically tells Kick-Ass that it's not really a costume. It's basically Dave Lazuski, the person. I mean, Dave is Kick-Ass every day, no matter if he wears the costume or not. So she kind of helps him out with that, and Kick-Ass kind of helps Hit Girl become a high schooler. He helps her, make her feel like a lady, not like the assistant Hit Girl that Big Daddy once raised her as. He helps her, and Marcus is kind of happy about this too, in the sense that it's okay to be a part of the tryout for the cheerleader squad. It's okay to hang out with some lady friends and have a sleepover and all that kind of stuff. It's okay to go out to a party just as long as you're not breaking the law, things of that nature. Um, so I liked how they, each of them had their own problem, and both of them had a resolution for that problem. Thus, they could help each other out. I really like that part of the film. It's actually one of the better portions of the film, I think, too. The film also shows the consequences of violence and why really isn't a lot of real life heroes. Mark Miller, who worked on the comics for the Kick-Ass stories, um, even said himself that the second Kick-Ass issue, entitled Kick-Ass 2, was basically about the consequences of violence. He kind of wanted to depict, how awful it would be if someone were to try to be a superhero. What would really be their, physical results, how fatigued they would be, all the blood and gore that might happen if such a thing were to happen. The film really shows the consequences of violence really well, and I think this is a very good film depiction piece of that message. I really like Jim Carrey's hero in this. He plays Colonel Stars and Stripes. Really fun to watch. I like all the scenes he's in. Really kind of adds a more entertainment value to the film, and I think that's why I like his character so much, is because he adds so much more entertainment to the film. He also has a dog that will basically chew on a guy's balls if he doesn't get the answers he wants for about the criminal whereabouts and stuff. So that kind of stuff, it's cruel, but it's funny at the same time. This is a very fun film. I was never bored with this movie. A lot of fun to sit through this film. Definitely, I can see why this was released during the summer. It's a lot of fun. And like I said, it's just a film I can never see myself get bored with. So Kick-Ass 2, I think, will be, one of the better films of the year because of that. Um, I like how the film has a sense of threat and danger. The character Mother Russia in this film, who works for, the villainous Red Mist in this, um, the villainous side of him. You really get a sense of threat and danger, specifically with that character. Like, you really just want to run away, hide away from her. You have no chance of beating her. But I liked how it wasn't just her; it was the whole Red Mist villain league that we see throughout the movie. Just a huge, great sense of threat and danger that really puts Kick-Ass and Hit Girl in a situation that's very intriguing to get out of for us as an audience, because it is so challenging for them also. Um, I thought Night Bitch and Battle Guy were great side heroes in this. I almost wish they were actually given more to do because I like those characters so much. Night Bitch even kind of has a small affair with Dave Lazuski. When you watch the film, you know what I mean. Um, for the negatives, you guys, I do think this film was missing Matthew Vaughn's special touch. Matthew Vaughn, really gave us a terrific first Kick-Ass film, and I don't think Jeff Wadlow quite understood that special touch that Matthew Vaughn did with the first film. Um, the overall film, I don't think, is as good as the first film. I think the first film was a much better depiction of what it would be like if a real life person tried to be a superhero. I think the first film did a better job with that. I think the first film also did a better job making sure the over the top content didn't get too over the top. So it can be over the top, but there's over the top to an extent. I think Kick Ass 2 almost goes too over the top at times. Um, but I think Matthew Vaughn had a better understanding of balance, and I think that's why I think I like the first film better than the second Kick-Ass film. Also, with this film, the absence of action, I think, tends to go on for too long. The film almost dedicates too much time for storyline, and because of that, we rarely get ever any action scenes. There's a lot of action scenes in here, but they're very far apart from each other, and I didn't like that feeling. I didn't like the feeling that I had to wait a good 35 to 40 minutes just to see another 5 to 10 to 15-minute action scene again. Um, some of the over the top content goes too far. I briefly talked about this not too long ago. Some of the over the top content in this really does go too far. All I'm going to say is Hit Girl possesses a device, or when it touches someone, it does something very, very gross to them. I think that's an example of just how over the top this film can get. Um, I think Wadlow's action filming style, how Jeff Wadlow films a scene, an action scene, I think it's a bit too of a shaky cam approach, and I didn't like that. Matthew Vaughn was much better about standing back enough and letting us see what was going on. With Jeff Wadlow, he was kind of all over the camera. We briefly saw Kick-Ass maybe in the corner at one point on the camera, but it was just so shaky cam. It was hard to tell what we were watching sometimes. Um, and I think that's why I really wish Matthew Vaughn directed the sequel. Um, I also think there was some underdeveloped side heroes and side villains in this. There was just so many heroes and so many villains in this film that, a lot of them are side characters, but we really didn't get to know them too well. We got to know Kick-Ass, we got to know Hit Girl, we got to know Night Bitch a little bit. Battle Guy we know a lot about because, he was in the first Kick-Ass film as a non-hero. Colonel Stars and Stripes you get to know a little bit about, but not a lot. He kind of has this, like, ex-mafia status thing going on. Some of the villains we get to learn a little bit about, like a little bit about Mother Russia, a little bit about the tumor, a little bit about Javier, who John Leguizamo plays, is kind of Frank D'Amico's last assistant that he had before he died. We get to know them, but we don't really get to know everybody else. And because there's so many characters thrown into this film, we really don't get to know anybody that well. But like I said, but just besides the lead characters. But overall, guys, I do give Kick-Ass 2 an 8.5 out of 10. This is a very fun film. I do think this is a very good sequel. However, I do not think, like I was saying before, I don't think this film tops the first Kick-Ass film. But it's still a ton of fun to watch. I definitely do plan on owning this at some point. If you like the first Kick-Ass film, you should definitely check this one out. Kick-Ass 2 is a very fun film, but it's not quite on the same level as fun as the first film, but it's for sure worth checking out.